Giant Orange Records.
Welcome to the Giant Orange Records preview of Record Store Day 2025. Here are some releases that caught my attention. And look, I try not to get too caught up in the hype, and remember that there are still plenty of Holy Grail records out there that are not on this list. It's a fine time to remind myself that I still want to collect all the Kinks UK Pie albums, and that I still have hungry mouths to feed and bills to pay, and hey, I'm a family man. That's part of what I do. I already own plenty of records that I can enjoy listening to with my son and my friends, and also by myself on those late nights when my soul aches for something more, some kind of answer from the universe. There's always an album or 12 that I don't have yet, and Record Store Day always piques my curiosity. The 13th Floor Elevators, Houston Music Theater, live 1967. I love the 13th Floor Elevators, but gosh, some of their live albums sound terrible due to the limitations of live recordings of rock bands in the mid-1960s. Even their studio albums are pretty lo-fi by 1960s standards. We shall see about this one. I might be better off saving my money for an original copy of Psychedelic Sounds, but it's always cool to see something unearthed from this incredible band that was only around for a few years. Eden's Children, self-titled. This collectible psych album starts with some fuzzed-out freakouts and pop rock sensibilities, but quickly turns into a jazz odyssey. I really dig the variety. Because this album is so hard to find, and it's not on Spotify, but it's on YouTube, I've only heard it a few times in a few bits and pieces, but originals go for more than $100 online, so this might be worth seeking out. Jackie D. Shannon, Love Forever, demo recordings 1966 to 1968. Her studio albums suffer from overproduction and too many strings and horns, and occasional but unnecessary harmonies from Dr. John that are so over the top that they are distracting and take away from the music. So maybe these stripped back versions of Mr. Shannon's songs is really the way to hear them in a gritty and raw form that serves them better for today's listeners. The Jayhawks, Blue Earth. The early Jayhawks stuff is so good. They picked up where Graham Parsons left off, but they did so at a time when nobody else was doing it, and this album was originally from 1989. They were so far ahead of their time that they had almost no peers until the vintage rock revival of the early 2000s when folks like Ryan Adams came along. This album is solid, but I just don't listen to this band as much as I used to. Original Jayhawks records from this era sell for well over $100. This is the first time this album has been reissued, so thank you, Record Store Day, for that. One of the good things about Record Store Day is finding affordable reissues of otherwise rare and expensive albums. Dada Puzzle. This is the first time this album has been released in the United States on vinyl. Another great rock band that got lost somewhere in the wash of 1990s grunge, which they are not. The local record store owner let me borrow this CD a while ago, and I'm always impressed when I hear it. You get one of the most obvious Fender Stratocaster sounds since Jimi Hendrix with this band. I love their name, which comes from the 1920s minimalist and absurdist art movement. The music here is melodic, complex, and supremely well recorded. The Grays, Rochambeau. Sounds like Jellyfish if they had less keyboards and sounded less like Queen. In fact, I like this a lot more than Jellyfish. This is power pop that jangles and has some very psychedelic moments. That was a pretty rare thing in the grunge-infused 1990s, but like so many albums of the decade, this one clocks in at about an hour. I think people paid more attention to music before all the social media and video games and streaming TV shows and movies on demand came in to distract us away from the really important things like music. La Lome, live at Thalia Hall. These guys make some of the coolest music videos on the internet today. The Los Angeles League of Musicians sounds more like a tropical holiday in Cuba than anything out of LA, They're definitely a band I'd like to see live, with their surfy South American Latin rhythms that also have a gritty garage rock feel at times. The simplicity of the music makes it easy to understand, and it's cool to see those White Stripes type of reso glass guitars mixed in with an upright bass and Latin drums. It's fresh. The Ramones, Loco Live, another awesome Ramones release that captures the energy of this band live. It was recorded in March 1991 in Spain. The Ramones were well into their career at this point. I might say I should probably add their first live album, It's Alive, from 1979, to my collection before I grab this one. Lou Reed, Metal Machine Music. I'd stream this one before getting the record. It's a double album of feedback noise. If you can listen to it long enough, you can start to hear something musical, but it's a pretty tall order and one of the most insane things that's ever been released by a major label. I think it was Lou Reed saying "screw you" to his label, or him just seeing how much he could actually get away with. I would probably only listen to this maybe once a year or once every 10 years, though Lester Bangs wrote some pretty inspiring words about this. Charles Mingus, Mingus at Monterey. This is supposed to be a really good one from one of jazz's many masters. If I find it, I'll probably grab it, though there are several old pressings of this album available online. Francois Hardy, En Vogue, best of 1962 to 1967. There's no track list for this one, but my Parlez-vous français is pretty limited these days. I do love just about everything I've ever heard from Francois Hardy, and already have some for original albums, which are all titled Francois Hardy, though they have different art and different songs. Harvey Mandel, The Snake. I hate snakes, but I do like the music of Harvey Mandel. It's funky soul that grooves, but it's also very much rock music with fascinating guitar bits. I never quite know what to make of Harvey Mandel's music, but I always enjoy it, and I'm glad to be listening to it when I spin his records, which are getting to be pretty hard to find. The Dictators, DFFD, Dictators Forever, Forever Dictators. This is the hilarious comeback album from the Dictators. I'd not heard this until recently. It's a fun blend of hard rock and early punk, and these guys were still having a ton of fun being punks in 2001 when this record came out. They were early in the punk rock game, releasing their first album in 1975. And from what I remember from the book Please Kill Me, these guys really did some crazy stuff back in the day. So remember, don't waste all your money on record store day releases. Make a budget, assume every album is going to be at least $35, and add it all up and see what you have in your Holy Grail want list fund and spend your money on those items. Looking at this list reminds me that I have a ton of awesome records on my shelves that I need to listen to. I don't like to wait in lines, and I live in a place where maybe 3 other people care about any of the bands mentioned here, so there's a decently good chance I'll find these titles at my local record store Sounds Good Music. And always, remember to enjoy the music, and I would also implore you to go listen to my band, The Electric Splash. We released some music in November 2024, and if you haven't listened to it, and my streaming numbers tell me that you probably haven't, go listen to it anywhere that you stream music.
Giant, orange, giant, orange, giant, orange.